Hey everyone.
Hey!
So what do we have here?
Sharkoon sent over their Rev200 ATX case for us to check out.
I heard it's got a unique interior design, right?
Yeah, that's right, and the outside looks pretty decent too, with a bunch of ARGB fans included along with a controller for the price. But let's get into testing to get a verdict on this.
So does it provide a roomy interior? How's the tempered glass side panel mounting design? And are there any customization options?
All questions we'll answer, and if you decide to get one shipped to your house, buying through our affiliate links below does help us a bit here, so thanks for that.
At Techspin, we bring you honest testing and opinions about new hardware so that you can decide what fits your needs. And let us know in the comments what you'd want to build in here.
And if you want to keep up with our releases and occasional contests, you should follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Techspin Review, and check out our companion posts on techspinreview.com.
Ready? Let's check out the case.
A quick summary. The Sharkoon Rev200 case is a truly unique right-side rotated PC case with a glass front and TG side panel. 5 ringlet ARGB fans direct air over the vertical GPU and out the rear. An air-cooled or 240mm RAD build will take a little longer than normal. Those installing a 360mm RAD with a long graphics card will have a bit of a challenge, but it certainly turned conventional case design on its head.
Now we've had the Sharkoon Rev200 tempered glass case in the studio for a bit now, just waiting for a hardware setup to build in it to give you a proper review. It retails for $96 US, 90 pounds in the UK, and 2,890 NT in Taiwan.
This case has a black finish and measures 48.4 centimeters long by 21.5 wide and 48.5 cm high, and weighs in at an even 9 kilograms. Key features are the right side 90-degree turn build, which at first look is very interesting and is sure to showcase whatever graphics card you have installed.
Pre-installed are 5 included ARGB 12cm fans, 3 in the front for intake and 2 positioned in the back for exhaust.
This ATX size case can also handle mini and micro ATX motherboards, supporting long GPUs up to 32 centimeters long. The max CPU cooler height is 16.5 centimeters. Maximum height for the front-mounted radiators with fans is 6.4 centimeters, and for rear-mounted radiators, max height is 6 centimeters for RAD plus fan height. Inside the box, the Sharkoon Rev200 has a canvas-type wrap instead of plastic, good for the environment. There's a thin manual, and the accessory box has marked screw bags, cable ties, and a motherboard speaker.
The 4cm deep case front has a glass panel with side half slats for air intake, and a very fine mesh behind. Good filtration in this area.
And the front panel isn't tethered, with all the connectors and LEDs on the top of the case. Everything on the top I/O panel means working on the front is much easier. We usually have to be super careful when building with a wired front panel, as it swings around getting damaged or pulling an LED wire almost to breaking. We didn't have to worry about any of that with the Sharkoon Rev200. It's a small thing, but makes building easier for consumers. Removing the front, the grille accepts up to 3 12cm fans or a 360mm AIO radiator, or 140 280 fans or RAD. However, we really recommend using the rear as it already has 2 ARGB 12cm fans with 240 or 280mm RAD spaced mounts. Compatibility for the ARGB is good. It works with MSI Mystic Light, Asus Aura, Gigabyte RGB Fusion, and ASRock Polychrome Sync.
The Sharkoon Rev200's I/O panel has a ringlit power button. There should be a hard drive access light, and there's a LED button. Connections for dual USB 3, 2 USB 2, and HD audio jacks.
We've reviewed many tempered glass cases on Techspin, and putting in the glass on this one, thankfully, is painless. There's a bottom ledge which makes sliding in the front 2 tabs fairly easy, and there's a more standard dual thumb screw setup on the back to secure it. And the thumb screws are held so that they don't fall out, a useful feature which makes putting on the side panel quick and painless.
The 3mm thick tempered glass measures 38.8 centimeters wide by 45.4 high, and by TG panel standards, this one is a little light. We'll have to see how a thinner panel stands up over the long term.
Inside, there's a large 13.7 centimeter wide by 17.2 centimeter tall cutout in the motherboard tray for easy CPU cooler installation, with 2 SSD sleds on the right. Front side comes with pre-installed ATX standoffs. As always, double check standoff placement on your motherboard and make sure it doesn't go in a marked off area.
The ATX 8-pin hole is small. As this board takes 2 of them, we're using a cable comb, which we could just barely angle through. Wider holes for all top pass-throughs would be better.
The PSU cover and lower extension are both riveted in, and since we're installing a max length RAD and almost max GPU, this decision made assembly much harder than it needed to be. For strength, rivets are great, but the flexibility provided by screws is needed for long components in this unique design.
In the rear, the ARGB wiring has an 8-port splitter with 5 spots taken with the fans, and is fine as there are no more fan spots in the case.
Clearance for wires to the back panel is 19mm. Even though this would usually be too narrow, due to the orientation, the wires aren't all bunched up as they usually are. And the rear panel goes on very easily, even with the extra length for sleeved cables. The power supply area can take supplies up to 20 centimeters long with grommet holes for cable pass-through. And the bottom has rubber feet and a smaller dust filter for the power supply intake. Usable filtered area is 133 mils long by 115 mils wide. The dust filter has a tab, so after you push it down a bit, it's easily removable for cleaning. So by necessity, the access to the rear of the motherboard on the Sharkoon Rev200 case is actually through the top. So if you ever wished it was easier to reach the rear connectors, this is definitely the case that you want. There's a standard 7 PCI slots with the rear I/O cutout, and the wires feed out the rear of the top section with a small vent here to remove any heat. This is all hidden with a plastic cover with tabs at the back and 2 magnets at the front. It gives a clearance of 62mm from the metal to the cover, and the real test will be stiff DisplayPort cables.
Dual hard drive bays are tabbed in and held in place by 1 thumb screw each, with spots on top to mount SSDs.
Sound levels were measured at a 0.5 meter distance, great with the Sharkoon Rev200, quiet, measuring 35.8 decibels, very good. Of course, after you add cooling and a GPU, your noise levels may go up. For this build, we used the MSI MEG Z490 Ace motherboard, link up here for that review, with an Intel 10th Gen i9-10900K in the new LGA 1200 socket. We have 32 gigs of HyperX Predator RGB DDR4 at 3200 MHz. A small technical note, we had issues with this RAM during filming. Boot drive is an XPG 8200 Pro 256 gig NVMe M.2, and we're cooling with an MSI Core Liquid 360R. Our GPU is an MSI RTX 2070 Super Gaming X, and at 29.5 centimeters long, it's going to be close.
All powered by the AeroCool 1000 watt power supply, though around 700 watts would be fine. Importantly, it has a dual ATX 8-pin, which this board demands. The Silverstone red sleeve cabling finishes the look.
Please take a moment to like this video, and if you like what you see, then please do subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified when I upload new content.
Okay, so about this case, we really like this unique design. It's certainly eye-catching. Interesting layout and execution for this.
I even like the triangular piece in the front. It's kind of like a nice little front accent.
Yeah. The ARGB fans, they also look pretty unique. Do you like the design and the colors that we're getting from them?
I think they're cool. I think maybe the LED bulbs could use a little bit more frosting, but I think that's the only critique that I would have about that.
But yeah, to diffuse the light a little bit more.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And yeah, it has lots of modes too, so that's good. Good quality build, like it's really well put together.
It's really well put together. First of all, one thing that we were saying is the side panels are so easy to put on. Like we even have extra wiring in this setup, and even the side panels taking it off, putting it back on is so simple, so easy.
Yeah, true, because with a Silverstone or any other modular cable wires, if you hook those up, there's extra wire that you got to try and shove into the case. Not a problem here, so that was really easy.
If you open the back, it's super clean. Everything's in a proper place. It doesn't look bundled up or anything. It looks really nice. Yeah, it's
true. With normal computer builds, you get this one big section on your left-hand side here where all the wires are coming down, but due to this rotation of the motherboard, everything's in different places, so it's really clean.
Yeah, definitely.
Airflow for this, it's okay. It's okay. The angled front sides cut down the available area on the actual intakes, and they're using a half slat design, which also cuts down the air intake. It has 3 fans in the front. It'll pull the air through. It's okay.
So we talked a little bit about the side panels and how easy it was to put on, but how was it to build the whole thing overall?
It was actually really interesting to build it inside this.
Yeah, you said it took a little bit more time to build the whole thing, right?
Yeah, just had to figure out like the placements and the cables coming out for like the GPU and the motherboard. It was like a puzzle kind of thing, so it was kind of fun. With this case, you could do a push or pull. A push-pull isn't possible unless you have fans on the outside of the back of the case. But yeah, you are limited to a push or pull with this, just because of the clearance to the motherboard. And speaking of the motherboard, the side access is a little problematic, because if you have USB 3, or if you have an older motherboard with SATA connectors up near the middle, it'll be challenging to get those to fit in, the connectors like and the wires to get in.
Yeah,
it's only like 4 centimeters clearance, so it's not a lot.
You said as for the air cooling or the 240 mil rad, I mean, it's not causing any problems.
Yeah, if you have a 240 or just air cooling, the 240 will go up top obviously, and then you won't have any of the issues that we had with a 360.
Yeah.
The 240 and a slightly smaller GPU, simple build and
Good.
pretty easy. Yeah. If you have this kind of case for a single monitor build, it'll be great for a workstation. You have your case, monitor, keyboard, mouse, and you're good. Yeah, it'll be perfect for that.
And for this one, there's no need for the PSU plate.
Oh yeah, because usually for our cases, we always recommend having a PSU plate. Some of the manufacturers provide them. That way you can just attach the PSU and slide it in the back. But with this orientation, actually everything was really easy. Like we could just fit in the wires, and we said like all the extensions got in there, no problem.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing is all the hard drive cages have thumb screws, and like we said, how easy it is to build this.
Yeah, the cages just popped, you unscrewed it, popped it right out, and
yeah,
you can attach whatever you want and put it back in, so that's good. Being tech people, we really encourage new design concepts, and this is really interesting for us. It was a fun build, and if you want to try something different, maybe pick up this one. We keep on saying unique for the Sharkoon Rev200, and that's really an understatement. As a now pretty experienced system builder, it took longer to build in this case as we figured out where the best points to wire and hide wires were. If you're looking for something different and have just under $100, maybe this one's for you. If you have a fairly simple build requirement with just one monitor, or your graphics card has a rare dual HDMI out the back, this will be just fine for your new PC.
For the good stuff, the idea of the vertical airflow cooling the GPU and passing the CPU on the way out is a great idea. The implementation here is a good execution of that.
Finding the best spots to wire up the motherboard was actually kind of fun, and the results at the back are the cleanest we've seen in a long time if you're a fan of supreme cable organization or are a bit OCD.
And we like the marked screw bags telling you what each are really for. Really nice, and we wish more manufacturers would do this to make things easier for the consumer.
We usually get on manufacturers to use slide trays in hard drive cages, but here it makes sense to use thumb screw singles. Good idea with the space given. Now we don't want to be too harsh on this case, as unique designs usually need a few iterations to really shine, but there are points to improve, starting with airflow and temps on this case are just okay. Since this isn't a straight through design, having the sides wide open is really important. However, the side intake area is shorter and half blocked by the slat design. We like the fine mesh behind, but less slats and a longer area would provide less of a choke point. That being said, if you're using a 240mm rad at the back, there shouldn't be any problems keeping everything cool anyways.
As we mentioned, we recommend a 240 AIO rad at the rear, and you could do a push or pull, but not a push-pull. Usually you'd see that at the front of the case, but due to the lip, that's not doable. Wiring the motherboard up went fairly smoothly with a few important points. First, access to the right-hand side is very tight. While maybe it looks fine on camera, clearance to an ATX motherboard is just 4 centimeters, and the PSU cover is riveted. If you're using a board with SATA connectors up near the middle, good luck with that, though most new motherboards will have all the connectors bottom right. However, a lot of USB 3 connectors are still up halfway, and we didn't connect ours as it was difficult to align perfectly. USB 3 internal connectors are terrible as their positioning tolerance is abysmal, and even being an experienced system builder and being super careful, I've ruined 2 connectors by smushing down a corner pin by accident. I didn't want to chance it here with a $400 board. The ARGB fan connectors weirdly have a 3-pin plus Molex design. While this may sound advantageous to the consumer if they run out of motherboard fan ports, it's a dual disadvantage. First, hooking the fan up by Molex instead of a fan header will have them running full speed, so maximum loudness. Second, you now have to hide Molex connectors inside your case. It'd be better to have only 3-pin and include a 2 or 3-way 3-pin splitter. The secondary top I/O button is wired as a LED control button, but you can repurpose it as a reset button. It would have been nice to see an extra dedicated LED button up top here. And the top panel design? I don't really understand why there isn't a full-length grommet here. Why not make things easier for the consumer? If there's a concern about heat buildup, just have rubber around the rim and leave out the tabs, but this tiny pass-through doesn't cut it. Not finished here, multi-monitor setups will require you to leave the top cover off, as DisplayPort cables are stiffer and you shall not bend them. DisplayPort cables have tons of wires inside with lots of shielding, and that allows them to carry 1440p 144Hz or 4K 60Hz signals no problem, but they generally cost more than HDMI and are stiffer too. We do not recommend bendy or flat DP cables. In our experience, they are more prone to failure. Okay, on to our game of millimeters, or let's talk about how we installed the 360mm rad and long GPU in here.
The front is the only place to mount a 360, so both hard drive cages came out, and we took out this plastic cover so the tubes had clearance. If you don't take out the hard drive cage, the Core Liquid 360R couldn't clear by about 67 millimeters. Taking out a notch from the very top I/O panel plastic would help. Now at the front, most cases have beams for structural support, but the Sharkoon Rev200 instead is using a raised lip. While looking decent, this has one huge drawback. You can't mount the fans outside the front. And due to the extra length, standard AIO long fan screws won't thread into the rad enough.
Wiring up the motherboard bottom was challenging because there's a rad blocking fingers. The solution would be to wire before installing the cooler. A tiny hook here to gently pull out the wires was useful.
The GPU was not the last step in this build. With the CPU plate on, the tubing blocked a crucial centimeter and blocked rotating the long GPU into position. In a standard case, we'd remove a right side fan, but here we have a riveted PSU cover. We had to take the CPU plate off, install the GPU, and then put on the CPU plate again. Overall, we like the Sharkoon Rev200. It's a cool design which will definitely be a talking piece, and we only face some challenges because of the 360mm rad with a long GPU combo. With a 240 and a shorter GPU, you'll have an easier time building in this case. Sharkoon can improve the next version of the case with wider side mesh intakes, a removable PSU cover, a sectional top cover so you can pull out off strips for DisplayPort cables, and a full width grommet for cables to come out.
We'd also like to see an extra 5 centimeters interior height for clearance and ditching Molex on the ARGB fans with a little nicer frosting.
On a side note, previous reviews, link up here, don't usually have this many points in the summary, and we aren't being overly harsh here, just presenting our experience so the consumer has all the facts. We're grateful to Sharkoon for sending us this case. It's cool, and we look forward to new and improved future models from them.
If you grab this or another case using our affiliate links below, will help us out here with no extra cost to you. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Techspin Review. And you can also check out our reviews at techspinreview.com.
What motherboard or case are you looking at getting? Join the discussion in the comments. Hit that thumbs up button if you like this video, and to help us create more, please subscribe and be sure to click that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. We check comments and we respond when we can, so if you have a question or if we missed something, then please do tell us down below. And let us know what you'd like to see reviewed. We appreciate you watching this far. Thanks for your time. See you next episode.